Kit's short story collection has 5 short stories about Kit, an American girl. The book seems larger than it really is because the pages are extra small and every story has a looking back historical section. The Treehouse and Home Run stories were originally published by themselves. The other 3 were written for this collection.
Argo Font Book Review, Argo Font Book Review.
Kit uses her head. You know how 2 of the boarders at Kit's house are nurses, but they never do anything? Well, they do something in this story. They realize Kit, Ruthie, and Sterling have scarlet fever. The 2 nurses are quickly replaced by Nurse Bergstrom from the Public Health Department. She puts the entire house under quarantine. The kids are not allowed to leave the room for 6 weeks. I lived through the 2020 coronavirus pandemic. I wish that quarantine was only 6 weeks long. Nurse Bergstrom constantly tells the kid to use their heads. That's where the title of the story comes from. She scolds them for misbehaving and writing letters to other people. Any letters coming out of the room need to be burned. It's quarantine. In a happy ending, it turns out Nurse Bergstrom secretly copied the letters before she burned them. That way people could still receive them. I don't know why she kept it a secret, though. It was really mean of her to pretend that she was destroying letters from kids. Kit's winning ways. Kit and Charlie are cleaning out the chicken coop when Ruthie comes. She needs a partner for a tennis tournament at the country club. Kit feels a little embarrassed that they aren't members of the club anymore. Roger doesn't help. He insults Kit the entire time. Kit and Charlie practice at a run-down tennis court. It's pretty bad, but it ends up improving her game significantly, because it makes her used to hitting and running extra hard. Also, Charlie helps Kit realize she can focus her anger against Roger into playing a good game. It's no surprise when Kit and Ruthie win. Kit's home run. 2 sports stories in a row? Kit accidentally wrecks some of Mrs. Howard's roses. Mrs. Howard gets extremely upset and fussy over this, because taking care of flowers at the hospital is basically the only thing happening in her life these days. Kit makes a home run in a baseball game. She's badly injured when sliding to home plate. Her lip is broken, she needs stitches. Mrs. Howard is the only adult around who can help. Kit realizes that Mrs. Howard being fussy and treating kids like babies is actually kind of nice in this situation. Mrs. Howard, for her part, thinks it's nice that she can be useful for a change. Kit gets Mrs. Howard a job at a hospitality shop where she can take care of plants and flowers to her heart's content. This works out great, and Mrs. Howard rewards Kit with a trip to a real-life baseball game. Kit's treehouse. Kit, Ruthie, and Sterling draw up various plans for tree houses. Kit has to babysit 3 kids named the Pews for a week, while Mrs. Pew helps Mother reupholster the couches. The babysitting job is pretty bad. The kids misbehave a lot. The only thing that settles them down is telling a make-believe story where they are ogres. When the week is up, Dad and Sterling surprise Kit with a tree house. She doesn't like it. It looks bad and it's in the wrong spot. Sterling admits he knew Kit wouldn't like it, but he didn't want to stop because he was having a lot of fun working with her dad. Sterling puts their original treehouse design plans on the wall. Kit uses the old material from the reupholstered furniture as a tablecloth, and she admits the treehouse is okay, even if it's not what she wanted. Kit and Millie ride again. Kit visits Aunt Millie in Kentucky. They both feel bad the schoolhouse has been shut down. All the books are sitting there useless. It's like the Great Depression 1. They try to be travel librarians. They go all over the county to deliver books to different families. Nobody wants any books. They don't want charity. Kit is inspired when she remembers she didn't want charity in her 3rd book. She felt much better when she could give Ruthie something in exchange for clothes. That proves to be the key to their library problem. People gladly trade things like quilt ideas, recipes, and sketches in exchange for books. Aunt Millie's almanac is quite large now. The end. Post-book follow-up. Not to be mean, but I was not a fan of this book. The home run story was the only one that really worked for me. It has character development, and it felt like it was part of the main series. It could have been expanded into a full book, although it would need other storylines. I think I would like this book better if it combined the different stories instead of separating them. The middle three stories were my favorite. I would combine those to make a new Kit book. I think I'd also like the stories better if it was a collection that had stories from many different American Girl characters, not just Kit. I'm sure the stories were supposed to be published separately because each one introduces Kit and the other characters. You end up reading the same basic explanation of the Great Depression 5 times in a row in this book. I didn't like the library and quarantine stories. They felt a bit like forced historical material. Like a publisher ordered the author to write something about the scarlet fever epidemic and the Kentucky Packhorse Library Project simply because the book series takes place in the 1930s. I'd probably give this book a 3 or a 4 out of 10, somewhere on the lower end of the scale, but not at the absolute bottom. I give Kit's short story collection a sideways thumbs up.